Hello, everyone. Welcome to Women Who Code San Diego. We're going to go through a couple of LeetCode problems. So that's it. Let's get started. Okay, so the first problem we did was the first unique character in a string. And basically the point of that was, hey, what's the first non-repeating character? Return the index of that character. Okay. So in our session, we said that we know that a character is non-repeating if we catalog all of the characters in a string, and then whichever one has a length of 1, we know that it's non-repeating. Now, if multiple characters have have a count of 1, then we want to return the index that's the lowest one. Jessica, I see your question. It's going to be posted on the YouTube channel first, and then once we get the YouTube link, we're going to post it in this event page. So you'll get it somehow. If you follow us on like our socials and stuff, like you'll find it eventually, but it'll appear on YouTube first, and then we'll post it in the event. So just keep checking the event for the notes. Okay, cool. So once again, just repeating, we want to find the first unique character in a string. We know if we have a count of all the strings, if the count is 1, we know that it's not repeating. And if we have multiple characters that have a count of 1, then we just need to return the location or the index that's the smallest, because we know that that is the first index. Okay, cool. I know that I talked a lot of crap about not doing things in LeetCode IDE. For the sake of time, I am. But I really recommend taking this outside and like not using the IDE and not using the LeetCode compiler. And actually, I will show you why, because I found out that there's a way to game this question to get, or to game this problem to get higher speed, even though it's not actually solving the problem. We'll talk about that in a second, but okay, cool. So first unique character in a string. Okay, so first what I want to do, if this was a technical interview, first I would understand, right? So I would ask questions like, what should I return if this is a single character, or is it the case that I can receive multiple characters in a string? I would want to create my own test case examples. For the sake of time, I'm just going to go straight on to plan, because I've already done this problem. I know it's a hash map problem. We're just going to get into it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to map it, right? So map characters to location. I don't want to map it just to count, because at the end of this problem, we want to return the location, right? So we're going to use an array of locations to help us get the count, because if I have an array of locations, I can get the length of the array, and that's going to tell me how many there is. So first I'm going to map it. Once again, I'm writing comments directly into the problem, and I'm going to implement my code right underneath it. So first I'm going to map it. And then once I map it, I'm going to find the arrays with length of less than 2, which is basically 1. And then if there are multiple arrays, then return smallest index. Okay, and that's going to give me the min. And that's going to mean the first non-repeating character. Okay, so let's map it. I use Python. I love Python. One of the things that they have in Python, which is really cool if you use this language, is a default dictionary. And what that does is I don't have to check every time to see if a character is in the hash map in order to like increase it or initialize it. It just does it for me. So Sarah's also a fan. I do love Python. So I'm going to import from collections, import default dict. This is specifically a Python API. If you were using like something like Java, JavaScript, whatever, I don't know if they have an API that's like this, but you would just, instead of me just, what you would do is like, I'm just going to write it here. Instead of using a default dict, what you would do is like, you would say, if car, I'm using pseudocode here. So if car is in dictionary, then append to the list, right? Else, else set key in dictionary and then append to list. So that's what you have to do with a hash map typically, is like, if it's not present, you have to initialize it first and then add to the list. But with default dict, I don't have to do an initialization, I just add it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create my default dict. I'm also going to set an array called non-repeating cars. Okay, so I'm going to set car to index equals default dict, and we're going to use a list. Python uses lists, not arrays. Whole story. We actually have a video explaining the difference between lists and arrays, but we're not going to talk about it now. Okay, cool. So map the characters to location. So for I in range, len of s, so we're iterating through all of the strings. I is going to give me the index. So car to index si, we're setting the key, dot append I. So what that's doing is, let's say our string is LeetCode, right? So for I in range len s means iterate through all of the indices in the range, stopping at the length of s. So iterate through this, right? And then at each iteration, I want you to take that car as a key, right? So, oops, if we're at 0, I want you to take L, put that in the dictionary if it's not there already, and then append this index right here, it's 0, to that array. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just iterating through the string and adding the locations for that specific character to the dictionary. So once it's done, like let's say that it's LeetCode. Once it's done, our car to count, or car to index, excuse me, our car to index dictionary should look like something like this. So it should look like L0, oops, I'm actually doing a list, so it's 0, E, 1, 2, T, 3, C, 4. Oh my God, do I have to do all this? I was hoping there would be more repeating characters. D, 6, and then E is already here, so it would be 7. So this is what it should look like. A bunch of lists with their locations. Okay, cool. So now we want to find the arrays with a length of 2, or with a length less than 2. So again, I'm going to use a Python method here. So I'm going to say for key item in, this is called car to index items. This is items is a thing that what it does is that it creates like an iterable. Sorry, I'm trying to like make this as beginner friendly as possible, but there are some terms that I use that I realize like I should probably be explaining, but basically it makes a nice little package where you can easily iterate through the keys and items. You can do this by scratch if you don't have like a method, like if you use Java or JavaScript, you can just do it by scratch. So you just iterate like through each one, but I'm not going to for the sake of time. So I'm going to iterate through all of the keys along with the items. And remember, our item is literally these like arrays or lists. So if the length of the item is less than 2, or if it's 1, then I want to append that. I want to append that index to the non-repeating cars. Okay, cool. So now we should have something like this. We should have a list that's like this: 0, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, cool. Boom. Now, if we have multiple non-repeating cars, return the smallest. So now what I want to do is just return the smallest. So I'm going to return the minimum of this list here. So I'm going to return the min of non-rep cars. Oh, actually, no, I'm not going to, because there is a case where there are characters that there are only repeating characters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say return the min if the length of this is greater than 0. Otherwise, just return -1. Okay, cool. So at this point, if this was a technical interview, I would iterate through each line and try to catch my bugs and like go through each one. It's already like almost 12:30, so I'm not going to, but we're gonna just run it. Hopefully I didn't do any bugs. I usually do. Look at that. See, there's a bug. This is why I'm supposed to go through it. All right, let's just go through it like I'm supposed to. All right. We're gonna do, we kind of did it already for LeetCode. So of course there's a bug, like when I do it now. Output is 7, expected is 0. What did I say? Min. Okay, so let's just go through this. So I'm very confident that this part is correct. That I've created this car to index pretty well. So now I'm thinking that I did something here that's not correct. So for key item in car to index.items, if length is less of the item is less than 2, then add to the non-repeating characters. Okay, I feel like that is correct. If multiple non-repeating cars, return the smallest index. So return the min of that. Let's see. I'm going to print this just to make sure. Car to index dot append. Let's run this one more time to see what my thing is. So yeah, as I suspected, this is correct. Wait, output is 7. We don't even have, oh yeah, no, what did you? Oh, okay, I know what I did. Okay, cool. So for key item in, yeah, that was dumb. Okay, so for key item, what I did was I appended I. Like, what is I? Like, first of all, I is what I used to iterate through here. Like, that's not even like, what am I doing here, right? So what instead I wanted to append, if the length of items, so the length of this is less than 2, then I actually want to append the first item. So item 0, because this is a list. I was something else that I set here. We don't want to append that. We want to append these indices here, and then we want to return the min. So this actually should be working now. Okay, as you know, it's working. Cool. So remember when I told you that you don't want to use LeetCode because it's really easy to game it? Well, something I know about Python that isn't necessarily true about other languages is that when it builds hash maps, it builds it in order. So right now, for whatever reason, it's saying I'm faster than 78%. I don't think that's actually true. I think it's probably pretty slow. But one thing I can do here is I can actually I can get rid of all of this, and I can, which I'm not recommending, I'm just showing you like how you can game LeetCode, is I can just say like return, I'm going to say if the item is less than 2, then I'm going to return item 0. And if it doesn't, if we can't find it, then just return -1. And then I'm going to return this. And then let's submit it. And it still shows like a success, although technically, like because I'm using Python, I know that it's in order. But if I'm using any other language, we don't necessarily know that the hash map is going to be built in this order. It could be the case that T is like right here, so iterating through this, we could return the first car, but it's not actually the first repeating index. And so that's why I say move it to, even though LeetCode's like, yeah, you did it, you passed all the test cases, move it to an outside IDE, because you want to solve for the correct answer, not the answer that's just going to give you success on LeetCode, right? And another thing with LeetCode is these things are pretty meaningless in terms of like this is saying that this is slower than the one that I just submitted, even though I know it's not slower. Don't pay attention to this. Pay attention to your own like time analysis and space analysis. You want to learn Big O, and you want to be able to do your own analysis on how many extra operations or how much extra space that you're consuming as the data input increases. So, okay, cool. So that was that. Hopefully you understood how to solve that from this. And now we're going to do the reverse words. Okay, so if you remember from reverse words, our task was to reverse all of the words in a string. And we went over at a very high level what that looks like, right? It's the same thing as reversing the characters in a string, right? All of the characters in a string, except in addition to reversing the characters in a string, you go through each word and reverse it again. So reversing characters in a string is a 2-pointer problem. So I'm going to make my 2 pointers. We're going to say start end equals 0, line of s minus 1. This is like a Pythonism where you can set your variables in one line instead of like all these separate lines. I like it. Okay, so what I'm going to do, oops, whoops, hello, getting ahead of myself, pseudocode first, right? Okay, so set pointers, iterate through string and swap. Then once I'm done iterating through the string and swapping, and at this point, for the sake of time, I'm just heading straight into pseudocode. But if this were a technical interview or this was an online assessment, you want to go through your steps beforehand, right? You want to understand, you want to match, now we're going to pseudocode, but we're assuming that we've gone through all those steps. Okay, set the pointers, iterate the string and swap, and then find words and swap. When I did this in the Google Drive, I did it last night. I like writing these lines here because I repeated a lot of code. It works, but not really great in terms of like a software engineering perspective. You don't want to repeat code. Now, if this was an OA, just shoot it and run, right? Like who cares? But if this were like a technical interview, you want to show that you recognize that repeating code is like not the best. So create a helper function. So for today, I'm going to create a helper function called swap. And it's going to take in the string. And it's also going to take in the left indexed. and the right index. I think we have to do this in place, right? Or no? Oh, I guess it doesn't really say. That's fine. Oh, I think this is like an extra. Okay, that's fine. Okay, cool. So we're going to set the pointers. We're going to iterate through the string and swap, and then we're going to find the words and swap. Okay, cool. This is like actually not how I did it in our notes, but we'll get through it. So set the pointers. So we're going to set our start and end pointer to 0 and the last character in the string. We're going to iterate through the string and swap. So while start is less than, that's actually not, no, that's fine. So while start is less than equal to end, we want to self.swap. Let's see, we're going to pass in S, we're going to pass in left is start, and we're going to pass in right. And then we're going to move start up, and then we're going to move end back. Okay, cool. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to iterate through the string and swap. And so if we have something like this as our input, whoopsies, what that means is it's going to give us something like this. That's what we should get. So what we're going to do is we're going to find the words now. So what we're going to do is, and words just mean a space. So we're going to iterate through the space for, let's see, end in range len of the string. If s end is a blank car, then we're going to swap. But we're going to see swap, we're going to pass the string, and the left is going to, oops, we're going to set start to 0. Whoops. The left is going to be start, and the end is not, the right is not going to be, whoa, that's not right. The right is not going to be end. This time it's going to be the character before it because we have a space. So we're going to do n-1. And then we're going to set start to n+1. Okay, cool. So that's going to help us find our words and swap. So then it's going to give us something like this. We started with this, and then it's going to give us something like blue is sky, and then it's going to be HT. Why? Because at the end of the string, we're not going to get a space. So we still have to swap that last bit. So swap last bit. So we're going to do self.swap, and we're going to pass an S, start, and just the last character, len of s-1. Okay, cool. So that should help us do this. So let's go ahead and implement swap. Which is, we're going to have a temporary, we're going to set right to our temporary. So temp equals s right. We're going to set right to left. So s right equals s, whoops, equals s left. And then we're going to set left to temp. So s left equals s, oops, equals temp. Okay, cool. So this should work. Just for the sake of, I'm sure I put bugs in here somewhere because that's just how I roll. That's just what I do. So I'm going to just really quickly make sure. Okay. I know if this was a technical interview, I would do it line by line, but I'm just, for the sake of time, I'm just doing this kind of quickly because we're already heading towards 1 o'clock here. Okay, so the sky is blue. So while star is less than or equal to n, swap, which means we take the right we put it in a temporary variable, we set the right to the left, we set the left to the temp, and that should be good. And then we put start forward, we move start end, or we move end backwards. So yeah, I'm confident that we're going to get something like this. So I'm not going to iterate through each one here. Now we're going to find the words and swap. So we set start to 0. Okay, so start's going to be here, and end is going to iterate through here. Okay, cool. So if n equals 0, or not 0, a blank car, which it does, then we're going to swap. We're going to take the start, we're going to take the end, -1, and we're going to swap. Okay, cool. And then we're going to set start to n+1. Okay, and then we're going to move forward. Okay, I'm pretty confident that this is good. So at the end, we're going to get something like this. But this is like, whoopsies. This is start's going to be here, end's going to be here, and we just need to swap this a little bit. So I'm going to, okay, we have start here, we have end there. Okay, I'm feeling pretty good about this. Let's go ahead and run it and see if I did something wrong. Of course, string object does not support item assignment. Oh, I gave you, this is not the right question. So it's a similar question, but it's actually not the right question because it's actually this one. Because it's a character array, I believe, right? Is that what I gave you all? I gave you a character array, yeah. And this is a string. Ha. But since we're already here, I'm going to show you how to do it in a string. So the reason why you can't do this in a string is because strings have a property where in languages like Java, I believe JavaScript, C, C++, whatever, any like sort of C-based language, although JavaScript I don't believe is a C+ language, C-based language, but strings are something that you would say it's immutable, which means they can't be changed. Once you set a string, you can't change it. So this question that we're solving is actually a little bit harder because you have a string instead of a character array, but that's okay. All you need to do to fix that is make a character array. So what we're going to do is we're going to split this string into a character array. I haven't done a split in a while, so I'm going to just type things and hope they work. So let's say s split equals, or I'm going to say s array equals s dot split. Maybe that's going to work. No, I know I can do. I can just make a list out of this. Haha, thanks Python. Python makes things so easy. Okay, so what this is going to do is it's going to create a character array. And so instead of s array, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this into, or instead of s, I'm going to change this into s array. So this would have worked if this was actually the problem that you solved, but unfortunately I did not do the correct problem. So it's just a slight modification. They're very similar. It's just, we have to make this into an array. Okay, so let me just make sure that this is done. I don't have any more S's. Okay, cool. And so what we need to do now, instead of, okay, that's why it says this. If the string data type is mutable in your language. So this would have been able to be done with Python, but they're not allowing us to do this. So what we're going to do now is we're going to return s array dot join, I think, something like that. Okay. Oh my God. What? Oh, just kidding. It's like this. All right, let's try that. output bulls is sky the, geez Louise. The sky is blue. Blue bull is sky that. What did I do wrong? Really quickly, I'm curious to see. I'm like trying to save time, and then in my efforts of saving time, I'm actually not saving time, which is actually hilarious. So let me really quickly see here. I was doing this while you were doing this, so this is where this code is from. But what did I do wrong? While start is less than n, we swap and we go forward and backwards. Start. I actually don't know what I did wrong here.
Wouldn't it just be a problem when that last swap last bit?
I think so. Yeah, because you're correct, because right here, the words are in the correct place, but there's something here.
Really weird with that last.
Oh, you know what? It's because I didn't even put, oh my God. I didn't even put a while loop. I just did one swap.
Okay.
I think, right?
Well.
Wait, hold on. Wait a second. Oh, no. We're fine here. But okay, so yeah, it's, oh my God, this is really, okay. So okay, this is what happened. So here I did like a while loop where we iterated forwards and backwards and did that. But I did not do that in any of the other ones, which is funny. So start, so here, if I have the word, then I swap, but I only did one swap because I didn't do a while loop. So while, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say LR equals 0, start, comma, n minus 1. So basically I have to do this, right? So left, right is start, comma, n minus 1. And we're going to, while L is less than or equal to R, then we're going to swap, because something I didn't realize is swap is just one operation. I have to do a while loop to keep doing it. So I did that here. I didn't do that here, which is why it's only like, while there's only a swap at B and E, but not for L and U.
Yeah.
So while left is less than right, we're going to swap.
And the other words are 3, or either 2 letters or 3. So I just didn't like.
Yeah, so I didn't catch it. Yeah. And then we're going to swap, and then we're going to put that and minus equal 1. There was a better way to do this, but unfortunately that's not what I did. Okay, cool. So then we're going to swap the last bit. So now we're going to do it again. R equals start, comma, length of S array minus 1. And then while L is less than equal to R, we're going to swap. And then what we're going to do is, sorry, this actually got messy. So I'm actually going to clean it up in a sec because I don't like messy code. So while left is less than right, we're going to swap, and then we're going to move left up, and we're going to move right backwards. And then this should be able to, let's see. We're closer. We have blue is sky, but we didn't swap this one correctly. So left, right. Oh, it's because I didn't actually pass it. Oh man, this is hilarious. This is why you're supposed to debug on your own before running it at the compiler. Okay, fine. So we have the correct thing. Again, I don't like messy code. So all of this like stuff that I'm doing, I'm still repeating it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say while left is less than right, then we're going to swap. That is the swap. And then we're going to left plus equal plus equal 1. And then right minus equal 1. And the reason why it's messy is, I mean, look at it, it just looks messy, but also we shouldn't be repeating these steps, right? Like it's a lot cleaner if I could just throw it all into one function and put it in. Now, if this is an OA and your code is this messy, just run it and let it go. Like pass the test cases and move on, because no one's looking at your code. But if this is a technical interview, and if you have time, then say, you know what, I can clean this up a bit. I could be a little bit better in terms of my software engineering skills. So I'm going to make this into a pretty little function. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to self.swap. I'm going to swap the whole array. So I'm going to do start and I'm going to do end. So that's going to swap the whole string, whole character array. Now I'm going to find words. So I'm still going to have my start pointer at 0. I'm still going to iterate through each one, but once I find a word, then I'm just going to throw it into swap. So self.swap s array, my left is going to be start and my right is going to be end -1. And then once that's done, I'm going to set start to end +1. Okay, I think that's going to work. Then I'm going to swap the last bit. Instead of doing all of this, I'm just going to self.swap. We have our s array start, and then I'm going to do the length of the string, length of s array -1. Okay, so that should be it. It's never closed.
Oh, you're missing one on that. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. So it's a little bit cleaner. We're not repeating the same code over and over. It's all in swap. So if I remove all of these comments, these random comments here, so it looks a lot cleaner. I'm setting the pointers, I'm swapping, I find the words, and then I swap the last bit. And then just for good measure, what? That's dumb. Oh, okay, so there's a test case that I'm missing here. Oh, we're not going to solve for this because that's going to take too much time here.
So what's wrong with it?
So there's a test case here that I didn't, that you would think of in your understand phase, right? So remember, just as a reminder here, this is not the problem that you were given. This is a different problem. This is a problem that you were given. So each word is separated by one character. And as I stated, like earlier, the code that I would have written before would have worked. I mean, except for that one part where I didn't actually like do the while loops. But anyways, it would have worked for that, that problem. But I actually pulled up a different problem. And it's a little bit different because here it says a word is defined as a sequence of non-space characters. It will be separated by a single space. That is the problem that you solve. In this particular problem, it is the case that you receive multiple space characters in a row, and that doesn't necessarily denote a word. So because I am solving for this particular problem, I'm going to stop here. However, this is actually a pretty cool problem to think about. Like, how would I modify the code to make it so that I know that I'm switching a word versus like a space? So that's what happened here. So when I submitted here, it said wrong answer because in this test case, we have a couple of trailing spaces in between, and that should have been carried over. But I'm not going to do this for now because that's not the problem we went through, and it requires me this is why when you're doing problems, you need to take the time in the beginning to like understand the problem, because you don't actually want to solve a different problem, right? So let's say that this was in a technical interview and I realize, well, if this is a technical interview, they should have warned you like far in advance that you're solving the wrong problem. But if this was a technical interview or an OA and I'm like, oh my God, like I realize I'm not solving the correct problem, I wouldn't try to like jerry rig this to see like how to solve it and like how to pass it. I would start at the beginning and I would start looking at these test cases, and then I would start looking at it and think, oh, and your reverse string should not contain leading or trailing spaces. And I would think to myself, okay, in this test case, what would I do here? So don't just try to like game the code to like make it work, but really think about the problem, really think about how it's behaving. Honestly, to be honest, looking at this, it just seems that you just discard it. You just discard the white space cars as you keep going. And then you just don't think about them ever again. That's what I think it is, but start at the beginning.
Yes.
So sorry for the confusion. This was the problem that you actually solved, but I pulled up a similar problem, but it's the same sort of concept. But yeah, any questions before we head out?
No, thanks.
Yeah, for sure. Happy studying. Once again, I recommend, doing this on your own, LeetCode, Pramp, grokking to learn those patterns. But practice makes confidence. So don't forget to practice. And I will see you all next month if you're going to hang out with me again.
Cool.
So take care, everyone. Happy Saturday.
Bye.
Bye-bye.